The apocalypse is upon you. I can't even speak tonight because it's the apocalypse. Let me introduce our committee. We have Greg from his underground secret bunker, a library somewhere hidden in the Eastern Mountains. And he's otherwise known as Horseman Destruction, or will also answer for what's this is horrible. Sam the Eagle.
Sam the Eagle.
Sam the Eagle. And we have Steve. Meet me in the back room of the Odeon in Leeds. Otherwise known as Horseman Pestilence, and will also answer as Miss Piggy.
I'm having to wonder though, Shaw, which one of us is going to be Famine.
And we have Mark, who is building a secret bunker in the Czech mountains to house all the Alma classics in the world and starve everybody. He is also known as Horseman Famine, but also answers for Stadler, if that's the correct one.
I never knew which one we were.
And me, I am the only sane one here, and I am also Death, but I also answered as Waldorf. Welcome to Friday Weeds.
Friday Weeds,
Jonathan Weeds, everybody. I knew I couldn't do that. My brain just will not allow me to do stuff like that anymore.
We're gonna have a crazy time.
White.
And we have a lot of people saying hello here. We have Jenny. I'll just go through quickly here. Gola Muad'Dib, Aaron, Winterlinde, Sonia, Omnipotent Poobah. But what we'll do is we'll go through the Friday reads. So I'm horrible at this tonight. Friday reads each. We'll start with Greg, and we may or may not have to mute Steve because he will probably take us into midnight. But
no,
we'll
I promise I won't. I'll be good.
What have you read this week, Greg?
Right. What have I finished reading? Okay.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of DNFs, which I won't talk about, but the one of my favorites was an audiobook of The Dane Curse by Dashiell Hammett. I've read it. I've read 3 or 4 of his other books, and he's always just so amazing to read or listen to his stories because you just get really into that old detective mode and the continental op. You have I love it. He describes himself as a 40-year-old fat man fighting down the criminals, and that was a great deal of fun. And the audiobooks work. I mean, they work really well for that style of book on audio. Another one. This is an odd one for me.
I was just wondering, was anybody particularly reading it, or was it just?
Oh, it was Richard Ferrone. He's done the Red Harvest as well. He might also have done The Thin Man and Maltese Falcon. I picked up this one. Does anyone know what this is?
I think I've seen Vin from Revenant Reads.
I got it from Vin. This is German children's poetry from 1848.
Wow.
They treated children a bit differently back then. Like the poem of someone suck a thumb, where if you suck your thumb, a man will come out and cut your thumbs off.
I mean, the Germans were pretty weird when you look at like the Tales of Hoffmann and things like that. Yeah. They're pretty gruesome for kids stories and stuff.
They were, and it's,
I forgot that parents once disciplined that. Do parents still not like children to suck their thumbs? I remember that from my childhood, that was, you didn't want your child to do that. Is that still, do parents still care about that?
I don't know. I don't have any kids, so I never had to discipline them for sucking their thumbs.
We were always told that you'd get like buck teeth if you sucked your thumb.
Yes, the buck teeth from sucking thumbs.
And it's like when you made funny faces, you know, I remember my grandparents would always say, "Oh, make sure the wind doesn't change direction or you'll be stuck like it." You know.
Guess it didn't work.
How do you know what I looked like before?
No, are we just doing what we finished reading and go on to?
Yeah, I think it's up to Sean. So,
yeah. Well, if you want to continue on to everything, yeah.
I'm finishing up March Mystery Madness with some Ed McBain. This is Criminali's favorite author. I like him well enough, but
Criminali or Ed McBain?
Criminali, they're both fine. But I've read like 5 of his books within a year, and I'm saying, okay, I really got to slow down because they're a little bit repetitive. They have different plots, but it's all following the basic formula of some sort of crime. The police go out and investigate, and they're going to solve it at the end of the book. And he switches it up enough to make it interesting, but there are like 54 books in the series or something like that. And
so a week's worth of reading for Steve then.
I would say if you've read 5, you've read them all.
You think so?
Well, and that's not true for everybody. I would never say that about Louis L'Amour. It's a matter, I guess, of how much you switch it up.
Yeah. But I'm enjoying it. It starts off with a police officer waiting. He's looking at a bus. The guy steps off on the bus and leaves his airline carrier bag. And he goes to pick up the bag and says, "Hey, you forgot your bag." And the bus drives off. And he goes, "Okay, well, I better find out who this bag belongs to." And the name tag has not been filled out. So he opens the bag and, well, there's a human hand in the bag.
Oh, I don't know. That's probably better than a load of dirty underpants, though.
Depends how dirty.
Dirty do your underpants get? Good Lord, that's not better.
I don't know. I think I would rather find a human hand than like a load of dirty drawers.
Yeah, so I might finish this tonight or tomorrow morning, somewhere around there. And if you have not read any of his books, it's well worth picking up his books. Now, I have only read his earlier books from the 50s and now in the 60s. I have not picked up any of his later books. Now,
so when did he go from being like an author to doing that? What's it called in America? Is it Publishers Clearinghouse?
I don't think Ed McBain's ever done Publishers Clearinghouse.
That's Ed McMahon. You're talking Ed McMahon, M-A-H-O-N.
Oh, okay then. Yeah, I often wondered why, how that worked. Okay.
Now, he also does one thing that really annoys me, is that when he starts off his first book, like in the early 50s, his main detective is like 35 years old. This book is like 5 or 6 years later. His main detective is 35 years old. When he finishes off in the 80s, his detective is 35 years old. And why time is progressing and the police procedurals are progressing, his characters are never aging. He just keeps them the same.
Timeless.
Yeah. Right. I think I would have preferred to see, the detective young and spry in the first book, and then going, man, I get to retire in 2 years at the end of when you get to the end. Like, say, I want to retire. I'm old. Like, ink.
Well, that's why I sort of wish they would have done with Nick Carter. He started in the 1800s, and they should have had him in the 60s when they continued on being 90 years old doing everything. That would have been the ones
in the 60s. I read a few, and they are dirty and fun. They're not quite porn, but they're close. And I'm finishing this off. I I have to say, I am really digging this book. I read JR last year and the year before, and I just fell in love with JR. And I still think the Recognition is a great. I don't think it's as good as JR. I think Steve looked at me like this one's better than JR, but okay, he'll make his comments in a minute. But there are scenes that are so brilliant where you're like at a New York gathering, people just talking back and forth, and they're having all these streams of conversation, and one person will pick up a term and the next person will take that term and twist it around, and it's just really brilliant. And I think more people should talk about him and read him, but he is not easy to read. And I know, Sean, you tried him and you just could not get into anything about him. He just like,
no, it just sort of, it's so wordy that it's like I picked up the spoon in a myriad thoughts of and just a string of 50 other words that, and then say that he put it on the table, and it's like, it's not even poetic. Anyway, I don't like his writing. I might look at it again someday, but not now.
All right, but for the right person, it's a trip and a half. Steve, going to say something about Gaddis, or are you keeping quiet?
No.
Let's go to just I guess we can. We are still getting a lot of comments here, so I have no idea what Aaron's talking about here, but well.
Well, you wouldn't, would you? But the rest of us know.
That's true.
Alex says, yeah, Ed McBain can be repetitive after a while. Groovy Pop-Tart, that reminds me of the book Crazy in Alabama, where Melanie Griffith's character has her husband's head in a hat case. Okay. The movie, not the book. Hamilton Thompson, that's similar to Kinsey Milhouse series set in 1980s because that's when the books started. Oh, I've never heard of those. Not quite porn, but it's close. The perfect tagline. And Alan saying he thought JR was better than the Recognitions, but I enjoyed the latter well enough. Everybody's talking to each other, so Alexis Mark Childress wrote the novel Crazy in Alabama. It's a wacko southern meme down pat. Okay, you want to go, Steve?
Yeah, well, I want to hear what Steve has to say about Gaddis. Or does he not want to talk about him?
I don't think there's a legitimate case to be made that JR is a better book. That's all. But it's totally a question of reaction. So I'm happy to hear, at least in this quartet, that you're liking it. When before that, it was me saying it's one of the greatest novels of the American 20th century, and Sean saying he couldn't get through 2 pages. So now we at least have another voice in the matter. That's great.
You can have a debate, I guess, on which one is better.
Yeah, it's debatable, I suppose. I don't think Gaddis had more than one great book in him. I don't think he had more than one book in him. But I'm probably in the minority when it comes to that.
Well, I can say is I have detected themes in this book that were brought over to JR. A lot of the characterizations, like someone was working on like an organ concerto in both of them. Right.
But imagine how much weaker those themes would have seemed in JR if you hadn't known about them. I mean, aren't you filling in a little texture now because you now know? Yeah, I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
Well, the thing is, I read JR first, so that brought me into it, and that set the standard. So now I'm looking at this one as like how we got there.
I would get used to that feeling if I were you.
Matthias, I don't really know either. I'm just
kind of all over the map. In this 4 Horsemen live stream.
Now Steve's going to talk about his 3,335 and
I promise I'm going to behave myself. If we're talking about books that we've finished reading in the last week, that is too many for me to talk about here. So I'm going to restrict myself to just a handful. Reminding everybody that is not a flex, as the kids say. It's my job. It's my job. That's why the number is so high. But amazingly, all 4 of the things I want to talk about today are fiction. Even though I read mostly nonfiction this week, as I read mostly nonfiction every week. The first 2 things are anthologies that I just got. These 2. 50 great ghost stories and 50 great horror stories. Both of them are edited by John Canning with his original cover artwork that I absolutely love.
Look at that.
And they're 50 great. I opened 50 great ghost stories. I ignored all the rest of it and just started with the first book. First story. I thought I'd just read through. I read that, read the next one, thought they were really good, read the third one, thought, this is awful familiar. Then I read the fourth one and thought, this is awful familiar. And then I looked at the table of contents for this book. 50 great ghost stories. Just picture in your mind who would be on the table of contents for 50 great ghost stories.
M.R. James? No?
Nope.
Henry James?
This book has Michael and Molly Hardwick. Michael Hardwick wrote Sherlock Holmes pastiche stories. Michael and Molly Hardwick have 9 of the stories in this book. And someone named Ronald Seth has 12 stories in this book. And someone named Frank Usher has 14 stories in this book. What on earth? So I was reading an anthology of these people who I don't know at all. Then I moved on to 50 great horror stories. Again, picture who would be in here.
What are the 3 you just named in the last?
Well, God knows, I don't know.
I'm guessing that the Hardwicks are in there, are they?
Molly and Michael Hardwick, Frank Usher, and Ronald Seth.
The same ones are in there.
Then I got to 50 great horror stories. There are 7 stories in here by J. Wentworth Day. 7. There's no Edgar Allan Poe in here. There's 7 by J. Wentworth Day. There are 8 by Ronald Seth, who I guess is doing well, by John Canning. And there are 16 stories in here by Michael and Molly Hardwick. This is a Michael and Molly Hardwick anthology.
It's probably their pseudonyms. The rest are probably their pseudonyms. They probably
50 great horror stories without any great horror anthology, without any great horror authors in here.
But were some of the stories were okay though? They were good. Or
yes, some of the. Well, this Seth guy can't write his way out of a wet paper bag, but Michael and Molly Hardwick can. Good. They were good. They weren't anything better than I could write myself, but they were good. They certainly weren't Guy de Maupassant. They weren't Chekhov. They weren't M.L. James. They weren't anything like that. I didn't get those in those anthologies. And then the other 2 things I want to mention are new. One is coming out in July.
When were these published?
What was that?
When were these 2 anthologies published?
Oh, they came out right at the same time in the 1970s, 1971. If that's any excuse. I mean, I did a lot of ill-advised things in the 70s, but I didn't just publish a 50 great anthology with my friends. I mean, honestly, 50 great horror stories. You don't have any Edgar Allan Poe. No, have any, anyway, no John Collier, no anybody. And why? Because you're making room for Michael and Molly Hardwick over and over and over.
No Stephen King, or is that before his time?
No, it's before Stephen King's time mostly, but it's not before John Collier's time.
No,
he's in every horror anthology. But I read this. This is by Rachel Cantor, and it is Half-Life of a Stolen Sister.
Oh,
and it's a weird, very effective novel about the Brontes.
Yeah, I was going to say, looks like them.
You'll be reading along, and it'll be a chunk of it will be just exchanges of letters, and then it'll move on to a fever pitch inner dialogue. Then it'll move on to a stage play, or screenplay. At first I thought, the storytelling pyrotechnics here, they won't work at all, but this was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. absolutely loved it. You get the 3 Bronte sisters and, of course, the doomed Bronte sibling, Branwell. They're all in here. So, once again, the reverse curse, the reverse curse of the Brontes, once again, holds true. I've read scarcely anything that takes this approach to them that isn't really good. I don't think I've ever read a piece of Bronte fiction, a piece of fiction about one of the Brontes that wasn't really good. I don't know why that is. Maybe they bring that out in their authors, but boy, oh boy, when July comes around, I will be singing this thing's praises. And then the last thing I want to mention, I won't go on, just one more thing, a debut. I read a debut. This is by Jeff Boyd, and it's called The Wait. And it's about a young black man who falls in head over heels in love with a woman and marries, but then they divorce a couple of years later. So he's divorced in his early 20s, and he's a musician in a band, but the band is sort of feckless and going nowhere. And he's weird in his own way, very prim, very anal retentive, but he still has friends and he still exists in the world. And I loved it. I thought it was just fantastic. Once I made my peace, about halfway through, I had to make my peace with the fact that this is 21st century debut fiction, which means literally nothing happens. And there is not any reason for anything in the book. You just have to make your peace with that. That's all. You just have to say, all right, well, it's a debut novel, which means it should be a novel. And it's not really. It's not really. And the more I think about it, the more I think I know why that is. I think that's social media. I was once upon a time willing to blame MFA programs, which are literally everywhere. Before this live stream, the 4 of us started our own accredited MFA program. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting an MFA program. And once upon a time, I thought that was the reason. But now, based on the feeling of reading this book, which was very good, based on the feeling of reading it, I'm now thinking that the culprit is social media, which is scrolling. There isn't any story arc in social media. There isn't ever any ending. There's just these weird up and down points that you're supposed to care about for a minute and then stop caring about because the next thing has come along. That's exactly the experience in this book and a million other books that I've read in the last 2 years. So that's my new meta crackpot theory that I'm going with, that this book helped me to see. And
I want to translate for everybody MFA, and I'll do it politely. Mofo authors.
Yeah, it's Master of Fine Arts is the not at all pretentious name that they give to getting a degree in writing, which is a subject that cannot be taught. So, it's a really great racket that every single school and every single podunk 400 attendance community college has an accredited MFA program.
It was interesting because I have an in-person book group, and one of the women in the group is a professional romance writer. And I have not read any book, but she's written, more than a dozen Harlequin romance books.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's had one of them turned into a Hallmark movie. Okay. And her comment was, the only thing that survived from the book to the movie were the character names. But that's not the point I was going to make. She's mentioned, because she mentored, she said, well, we get out to teach people to be authors. And I said, you don't teach people to be authors. Authors create themselves. And she got kind of huffy that she thinks you can teach people to be writers. And the thing is, what they teach is you to be a certain type of writer. And you can, so like you said, these MFA programs, whenever you see an author with MFA program, I kind of have the same feeling. Oh yeah, well, I'm going to get this MFA feeling to the book.
Big hard books and classics.
But
entirely possible that the person who was complaining does have an MFA degree from an MFA program, and it's entirely possible that the MFA program is one of the most famous ones in the world. I still have to complain about whatever I want, right? Even if I didn't have an MFA, I would still have to complain about the incredible lockstep uniformity and conformity and chloroformity that they introduce into American fiction, right? You don't need any credentials to complain about something.
See, my point was I thought that the literature took a turn sort of when authors growing up had home VCRs and you could watch all your movies at home and all your TV at home. that's really started when I started to pick out. It's like I started noticing that the style of writing has really changed, gotten a lot simpler, a lot less dense, lots of, I think less engaging.
I wonder if would that be because they suddenly the storytelling experience of the movie was completely under their control? They could stop it, they could speed it up.
I think it's the access. Is that it used to be when I was growing up, if I wanted to go see a movie, I had to go see a movie in a movie theater. I did not get a VCR until maybe late teens, early 20s, somewhere around there, you know?
Wow.
But I remember, like, when I was in high school, when I wanted to go see a movie, you know, I had friends, and we'd take a bus to downtown DC, and we go to one of these really sleazy old theaters that you paid $10 or $5.
Like the Odeon in Leeds.
You got like 2 movies. You could see Zardoz or Eraserhead. Or
I couldn't go to those seedy old movie theaters. I had to go to drive-in theaters because I always had dogs with me.
Yeah, okay.
The theater would never let them in. Oh, Alexis Curie is entirely right. MFA programs now exist as taste commissars. Once upon a time, they merely imposed their own, whoever was leading the MFA program would impose their own style on all of the acolytes. So everybody would start to read like John Irving because he was running the program, or John Barth, or whoever. Now, though, it's ruthless imposition of Twitter censorship. But we've stalled before we got to Statler and Waldorf.
Yes.
So it's your turn now, Mark.
Well, if we're bringing audiobooks into the equation, I did finish off 2, but they are quite short. I downloaded the other week the definitive Sherlock Holmes I mentioned, read by Stephen Fry. So I listened to the first 2, which of course is now I'm forgetting. Sign of 4 is the second one, and the first one is Study in Scarlet. Thank you. Yes, gosh. See, it's the pressure of being live. And that was good fun. Sorry, what?
You commented before we went live about do you actually remember what you read? You heard these things mere days ago and didn't. I don't think I have that high a bar to clear here.
Well, this is because I wasn't thinking about it, and I had Sign of 4 in my head and Study in Scarlet, and then the one I'm listening to at the moment is Something in Bohemia.
Scandal in Bohemia.
Thank you. I've been at a party before this, Steve, and I'm going back to it after. So that's probably part of the issue. Although I wasn't drinking. So yeah, I've done those, and then I've also read this week. I finished off Xenophon's History of My Time, or Hellenica. The others read the Landmark edition, but I was too tight to buy it, so I thought I'd stick with the Old Penguin. But I enjoy it. I like this Rex Warner. I think he does an all right job, and I thought it was fine. People were worried it was going to be much drier than the other one, which I've forgotten. No, but it's not. It's good fun.
He was from that generation of translators who very much wanted you to like what you were reading.
Yeah, but I mean, they were worried about it being drier than Anabasis, Anabasis, and I didn't. I found it.
They were worried about Xenophon himself. Don't worry too much about Xenophon.
But Rex Warner did a good job. It's very readable. I enjoyed it. So
that's why I got Rex Warner, who I have.
And then I read Bulgakov's Young Doctor's Notebook, which is a newish translation by Hugh Alpin. And it was good fun. It includes the story Morphine. But then I found out that Misha Glenny's dad, Michal Glenny, did a translation in the 70s, which includes another story called Murder, which is not in this. So I have to go back now and read Murder. But I really enjoyed it. It was quite...
That's a gorgeous paperback. Who is that Pushkin Press?
No, it's Alma. The whole...
Oh, right, the whole series that you got. Okay.
Yeah, I've got almost all of them for Bulgakov and Dostoevsky and
He almost has
Others.
all of Alma Classics.
I'm doing my best to collect them all, yeah, but they are really nice. And
oh wait, Shimo Craftsman has a writing question. Should we go back and answer the writing question? Or is that just aimed at Steve? My creative writing teacher said subversion of expectations is the most important element of storytelling. What do you people think of this kind of assessment? It is dog crap. This is the technical term. It is dog crap. Subversion of expectations is a euphemism for I hate my readers. Or in Hollywood's case, I hate my viewers. It should be the fulfillment of expectations, not the subversion of expectations. You are not a rube or some sort of Cossack for going into a story expecting some things. Sorry. Mark, you probably
Ed McBain, you go in expecting things and you're going to get exactly what you expect.
Yeah. And Ed McBain's great-grandchildren won't need to work a day in their lives. No. So obviously it's a popular thing to do.
It is.
Subverting expectations is a euphemism for I hate my readers. I think they're dumb. So if you're a writer and you hate your readers, go right ahead and do that. But otherwise, run from it and run from people who advocate it. Sorry. The perils of live streaming with Steve.
My fingers always hovering over the mute.
No, I promise I'm done.
Go ahead. Okay. So I also read Tales of Adventure and Medical Life by I've got it in front of me and I can't even say it. Arthur Conan Doyle, which is just a collection of short stories. First half is, well, it's kind of mixed between, as it says, Tales of Adventure and then medical tales. So I thought it'd be a nice complement to the Bulgakov one. And I really enjoyed it. Some interesting stories in there. And then it might be my last Historathon for the month until the next quarter. I did read John Mann's Terracotta Army, which was really interesting, actually. I really enjoyed it. I had no idea the Terracotta Warriors were actually painted. It's like a few years ago I found out that in ancient Greece as well, the figures and the Parthenon was painted, but I didn't know that, right? Like a few years ago, and that was a revelation. And then finding out that these were also painted. He's got a picture of one in the inside of what it would have looked like. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, the paint's worn off over the centuries.
Yeah.
But don't they all have individual faces as well?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just fascinating how they went into the process of making them, but also the stories connected with them and the first emperor of China. I really enjoyed it. It was a very fast read. I've read John Mann before, and because I've got his book on the Great Wall, and then I have 3 others which I'm going to read next quarter. You know, not highbrow, but he kind of mixes like a little bit of travel with almost like journalism and history. It's nice. They're good and informative. And then the last one links in with Shawn, which was James Hogg's private confession memoirs of a justified sinner. Private memoirs and confessions of a justified sinner, which was also good. What did you think about it, Shawn?
I liked it. Well, it was the second read. I read it a long time ago. It was first published, expectations of a novel.
Look at that Oxford classic you have. Very nice.
William Blake, is it? Or
yeah, it's William Blake. Yeah, no. Are you finished then, or
yeah, that's why I'm linking to you. So over to you.
Yeah. So this was I didn't have a great week of reading, but I did finish the private memoirs and confessions of a justified sinner. He was fully justified for killing all those people, if he actually killed them. It's quite neat because it's couched into the found manuscript period, but it's 1824. But I find it fascinating because he doubles back on things. There's you don't know what's really going on because you get a historical aspect and then you get the personal aspect, and no narrator is accurate for anything. and and he's just doolally at times. But then he says stuff that's perfectly reasonable.
And it's like people we know.
What?
I didn't think he would stoop to it, but he every time does. Oh, it's
and James Hogg he inserts himself with a letter about the Scottish mummy. So you have to read it to find out about the Scottish mummy.
Now, Sean, I'm curious, when you read a book like that, when you pick up an Oxford edition like that, do you start with the introduction?
Or if I've read it before, yes. If I've read it before, I do. If I haven't read it, I'll read. If it's a translation, I'll read the translator notes, or I'll read a few things. But I don't want them to tell me what to think about it before. But if I've already read it, then that's, and if I have a memory of it, then that's fine.
That's interesting. I picked up something the other day, and I can't remember what it was. Surprise, surprise. But it actually said in the introduction at the beginning, it said, if you haven't read this before, don't read the introduction.
Yeah, they often do. They say view this as an afterward. Why they don't publish it as an afterward, I don't know.
Yeah,
they often do it that way. Although I feel behooved to point out that off camera, before we started, Mark complained because I referred to him as a crusty old man. And the three other men in the live stream are 10, 20, and 40 years older than he is, and we haven't had a memory lapse yet. And he doesn't even remember the name of his own dog, and that dog's name is in the title of his channel. So it's entirely possible that crusty was an understatement.
He may have been talking to those women and drinking with the women a little more than he's been letting on beforehand.
Could very well be. Could very well be.
Maybe I'm having my youth sucked from me, you see, by these.
I think if you're in
check vampires or something, you're sucking your youth out.
If you're in a 4-person live stream with someone who's currently suffering from long COVID and you've got the worst memory, you really should sort of sit down and accept any adjective that goes your way.
Okay, my next book. My next book was something that actually I never I didn't recognize her name until I saw pictures of her, and then I knew who she was. Brandy at the Book Eclectic mentioned this to me, and it's Juna Barnes, Vivid and Repulsive as the Truth. And basically she had me at that there's articles from the teens. So somebody bought this for my Christmas. Christmas? Yeah, Christmas. My birthday.
Terrible. Sorry.
My birthday, and I read this, and I absolutely adored it. In many ways, some of her language that she either made up sayings what like the postman said or something like that, or she listened very carefully and plucked out the choicest bits. Either way, it's marvelous. The only thing that I had an issue with this was it's called Vivid and Repulsive as the Truth, but the woman that did the introduction, Catherine Mahler, says that that discomfort is important. Like she's talking about other repulsive bits in here. It says some articles quote language and viewpoints that I find not only uncomfortable but reprehensible. Rather than edit the language of these pieces, I've chosen to exclude them entirely. It's called repulsive. But even so, it's really good. It's I would suggest that it's amazing. Like our poetry, some of it's okay, but the short stories they're dark, but they're very pithy, if that's a word. Now, the next one I read was for my Patreon book club. Jules Verne, A Fantasy of Dr. Ox. I've never read this before. I think it's a new translation for the Alma Classics.
By?
Jules Verne.
No, the translator.
Oh, the translator.
I've never heard of that Verne book before.
Andrew Brown. No, I never either. So I was curious about it. It's very odd. I'm not sure what Jules was smoking or shooting up while he was writing this, but it's extremely funny because there's a part in there where there's a 6-hour act of a opera that they speed it up and they get it all done in 18 minutes. And it's quite humorous the way they do it. And if you find out the doctor's name is Ox, and if you look at, I won't spoil it, but his assistant's name, it means something. And it's very short. You can read it in one sitting.
It's one of the 101 classics, yeah?
Yeah, 101 pages. If they do that with every book, they must fiddle with it for typeface to get it 101.
I mean, some of them, like the Steve's put me off big time. The Victor Hugo Last Day of a Condemned Man, I think, is a bit over. I think they don't mind as long as it's plus or minus, 5-10 pages, doesn't matter.
But the long-standing question about that Vern and about half a dozen other Verns, I guess I can ask you, did it feel like Vern, even with the Brown translation? Did it even through a translation, or did you get the feeling that maybe there is something to the speculation that he just slapped his name on it? And then
it does not seem like a Jules Verne story at all, really. Like it's absurd and funny, and it's not what I expected. But the thing is, I have read maybe 10 or 12 Jules Verne's, and they're the usual ones. He wrote how many? So he might have written a lot of stuff more that are like this. I don't know.
Are you saying he's pulling a James Patterson and just not putting his co-writer on it?
It was an extremely popular thing to do. Not just for him, for plenty of other people a lot higher on the food chain in terms of French classics. It's an extremely popular thing to do.
Alexander.
And it's been, I mean, there's been speculation about half a dozen of his books, and that's one of them.
I would have to wonder about Balzac a little, because he wrote 86 books.
You're absolutely not allowed to wonder about Balzac.
Well, I don't know, because it just seems like he must have never stopped writing, because he wrote 86 books. He died when he was 50, and he started writing when he was 30.
Yeah.
So the guy obviously never slept.
Well, he actually didn't for most of the time. He drank coffee and he edited the proofs while he was writing the 6th book down the line. But
of course, it might be why he died at 50. So yeah.
I've heard a story about Anthony Trollope that he could write 250 words in 15 minutes or something like that.
He wrote. He knew exactly how many pages he wanted to cover and exactly how much time every day, and nothing could get in the way of that at all. Whether he was on,
the 3 Anthony Trollope books I've read have all been fine. I mean, one of them wasn't as good as the others, but
right. But in Trollope's case, it's not quite the same, because his wife could testify that he did write these things. We have the holoscript manuscripts of everything we know for sure. But with some, especially French authors,
but it's possible to write fast just because there's 84 books.
It's not possible to do. It's basically I'm agreeing with what's his name again? Mark. Basically, I'm agreeing with Mark that it is not possible to write Balzac. It simply isn't. It's sitting right there in front of everybody, and we're supposed to just say, "Well, he's honored. He's in the Pleiade." So
he probably gives it away himself a little bit, thinking back to Lost Illusions when.
Oh my God, Lost Illusions is practically a signed confession.
Well, yeah, because he says Lucien hands it to his mates, and his mates all write a bit and make it all presentable. So perhaps
I've never understood the pass that French authors get. I think it's obvious when you read outside the canonical 6 Jules Verne books.
Yeah,
you see it instantly. When you read more than 2 Balzac, if you read 10 Balzac, I think you could see it instantly.
Yeah, like
other canonical French works, eh?
we'll come back to that.
Or not.
Back to French's Zola. At least he wrote a more sensible amount.
Right. And there's no question of it either in Zola's part. It's almost like I want to say, prove it to me. Zola is the same thing as Trollope. There's no doubt of the provenance of anything. But, I mean, with Balzac, we have all sorts of stories that you have to hope are apocryphal about how, cigar chewing in his mouth, he was on top of a 12-franc whore, yelling out the dictations for chapter 20 of whatever to an amanuensis who was out in the doorway but not looking because that wouldn't be proper. Even if he did that, in other words, even if he never stopped writing for anything, still,
his stuff is variable, but I still like him. And there's some that like I really like Lost Illusions, even if it's not him. But there are there's a few things that you go, this isn't very good. So you do wonder. But with Zola, I find a consistency everything that I've read, and I'm doing the 20 Rougon Macquart series, and this just goes to prove there's nothing new under the sun. This book.
Who does the translation for Oxford?
There's several. This one is Brian Nilsson. And it's got everything. It's got incest, cross-dressing, gender fluidity. 1872. Okay. That's why if you find some 50s or 60s Zola paperbacks, they're pretty salacious covers, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I have Zola on my Kindle Omnibus, but they're all public domain translations, and I sometimes wonder if they've been watered down a bit, because they used to do that a lot with the old translations.
Yeah, I think this would be he's using incest, the word incest a lot in here. And this mother and stepmother and son are stomping like rabbits throughout the house. So there you go.
Wait a second, isn't that really popular on the porn channels nowadays? Step parents or something?
Is it, Greg? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm asking you guys.
You're the married man. You're the one who would know.
Yeah, and you're retired, so
Why would
that's
I
what
know?
You're doing all day.
Married man. You guys are the singles, so you would be going out and.
But you can say goodbye to books like that by Zola for the exact reason that you read in the introductory comments to that Barnes novel. Rather than edit the material, I have chosen to omit it completely.
Yeah,
that is pretty much the editorial standard of the 21st century. It'll be
so that's why I've got these.
This is harmful to reprint this, so we won't do it because we don't want to harm anybody.
I have half of the series, or just over half, because I was only going to do one a month this year and then continue on. But I think I want to complete it this year, so I'm going to have to try to get the second half of the series. Because there's ones about prostitutes, everything. It's basically Zola. Just his naturalism was that everything was based on heredity and environment, and you had good blood or bad blood, and there's not much you can do about it.
I've always found the naturalist very boring. The American naturalist Frank Norris, I think, writes some of the most boring books that have ever been canonized. But
I'd like to ask you, Steve, if you don't mind, while you're here, unless I'm interrupting. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to point out that the books are doomed. They're absolutely doomed. Anybody who can look at Ian Fleming's James Bond, anybody who can look at Roald Dahl and think that the people who are willing to censor those books for a new generation are going to look at Zola and say, well, he's in the canon, so we won't touch him. They're crazy. Absolutely crazy. Everything is fair game if it's allowed. But anyway.
I don't know if you've got more to go, Sean, but I would like to just ask Steve while we're on kind of topic. So going from someone who was very prolific like Balzac to someone who wasn't, who only wrote 3 novels, and that's Ivan Goncharov. And I wonder if you've read, I know it's kind of not really a Steve have you read it question, because you probably read it, but I wonder if you read the translations by Stephen Pearl, because I'd never read Goncharov before. And again, I picked them up at Alma. There were 3 in a set, and I thought I'd give them a go. And it was great. I have to say, I really, really loved it.
Yeah, it's the thing I used to tell people 30 years ago when a new translation of Oblomov came out. I forget who it was by, but I don't deny at all that Goncharov has one great book, but you're really doing yourself a disservice if you don't read his other books. He's really, really good. He's good in everything he wrote. So I'm glad that they're reprinting or printing.
Well, it's nice, yeah. And the thing is, they've given them different titles, because this one I think is usually released, or when it was previously translated, was translated as a common story, and they've called it The Same Old Story. Oblomov is the same title, of course, I guess, because it's his masterpiece. And then there's one called The Precipice, but this is called the Malinovka Heights instead. They changed the name of it as well. But this Stephen Pearl, he seems a very interesting character, and he's done, I don't know, it was just such an enjoyable book. The conversations between the nephew and his uncle, like throughout the whole book, are just charming and brilliant. I really loved it.
Who did the translation for? The newest translation of Oblomov was from the early 2010s, I think, 2011 or 2012. I can't remember who did the translation for that. And well, actually, I could probably look it up, since I was just about to say I don't want to risk bouncing myself out of the chat, but it's not my chat, so I could actually do that. But I used to have that volume. Yeah, see, mine, the volume that I'm thinking of had a much better cover than that. Yours is a really bad cover, really boring.
Oh, really? I really like these covers. They're nice, but
you're dead wrong.
Oh, well.
Yeah, here we go. The one that I'm thinking of had feet on the cover. Someone who can't get their feet out of bed. That one right there.
Oh, okay.
I did not keep that, and that was translated by Marion Schwartz, something like that. Definitely not your guy. So
yeah, he translated it in 2006, but then revised it again in 2014. So, oh yeah, charming.
Steve, you're gonna need to do some explaining here.
The Steve Tiberius Donahue Book Club is what's being referred to there. If you are unaware, feel free to join our club, my channel's book club. We're finishing up with Wolf Hall this week. We finished the novel, and I've already decided what I'm going to do this weekend as a final installment. I was going to interview Thomas Cromwell, but it turns out he's dead. So I know what I'm going to do for the final installment. I think everybody's going to like it. And then next month we're doing SPQR by Mary Beard.
Aaron, I want to say the review is written on the wall of the back room of the Odeon.
I'll just do my Alan bit that he does always in Greg's lives, where he pulls out the book people are talking about. But there you go.
I have that book on Kindle.
It's great. It's great. It's worth it. If you haven't read it, you should join in.
I've also heard that you really should be a little bit informed on your Roman history before you pick it up, because
rereading it, I'm realizing that, and that means it was a tactical misstep on my part. I much as I wanted to reread it, I shouldn't have chosen it, because I'm trying to pick books that you don't need any kind of grounding for. Although I don't think I convinced I told everybody you don't need any grounding to read Wolf Hall. I don't think I convinced anybody. So we'll do some grounding before we get to it. That'll be fine. It's an innovative approach. I think it'll be fun to talk about ancient Rome all month long.
Alexis is saying she's catching up on back issue of science fiction and fantasy. Science fiction fan. No, it's the magazine of fantasy and science fiction, isn't it? I always get it backwards.
Science fiction and fantasy.
Okay, I always get it backwards. Whichever I do, I always get it backwards. Good point about the introduction. Going back, I'm behind. Book time with Ryan. I'm reading the third book of the Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy that my 4-year-old picked up for me.
Oh,
but
okay.
way too much sex.
Oh, so there's a YA series called Kingdom of the Wicked? You're not talking about Anthony Burgess' book. You wouldn't read that with your kid.
Yeah.
There's no way.
We need to plug this again, Steve, because it's coming up soon.
Yes, indeed. It's another book club.
Which
Yes,
one is that?
them.
We have another book club starting in April.
Because if you do the S&M book club, you're gonna have to catch the
STD book club, right?
They go hand in hand. In fact, they were found hand in hand in the men's room of the old Odeon in Leeds.
Well, you see the problem. The problem with Steve is Steve is 28. He tried to do the Dorian Gray, but it went backwards. The picture is staying at 28, and his body is aging from the decrepitness of his life.
I had one viewer of my channel said that 28 is the year I stole the TARDIS. Yes, Mark and I are reading travel literature. It is not a closed end thing. We are going on S&M journeys from now until Mark dies of old age a couple of years from now. We'll be reading travel literature. We're starting with A Time of Gifts by Patrick Leigh Fermor, which is widely regarded as one of the greatest travel books and one of the greatest travel writers of them all.
When
We're
are you
going to
doing
range all over the map. I'm hoping that I can convince Mark to range all over the map.
It's no problem for me.
What are you doing, Rebecca West?
I'm hoping August.
The problem with Rebecca West, I mean, she wrote the greatest travel book ever written, but it's 1,000 pages long. You're not supposed to. How on earth can we do that? We can't possibly ask that of anybody. No, we can't.
Yeah, I got to read that again, and I don't have a copy. So, and Mary Kingsley, you're going to do Mary Kingsley as well.
Mary Kingsley's book is also really big.
Well,
it's
both
really,
of them are,
really
yeah.
good, but it's also really, really big. I would love to read Mary Kingsley. I am her only living huge fan, but I would think that we would keep the books a manageable length. One that I really want to press for. It will depend on how suggestible Mark is in the men's room of the old Odeon in Leeds, but I would really like to do Marco Polo. Talk about a signature travel writer.
Well, you see, the funny thing is, actually, I did my video today about the next quarter of Historathon, and one of the things I said I'm going to read within the next 3 months is Marco Polo's travel.
So did Marco Polo? Who's the translator for that? I didn't know they did that in that series. Good Lord.
Nigel Cliff.
That's the same as the paperback, isn't it?
Probably.
Paperback, I think. Yeah. Well, you see, Alexis, that's Steve in the men's room at the Odeon.
Well, I wanted to do it because I'm also going to do as a complement to it, because I wanted to get some Chinese and Japanese things in. And I mentioned John Mann earlier. Well, he has his book Xanadu, Travel Marco Polo and Europe's Discovery of the East. So I thought doing the two will be good together. And then not travel, of course, but I thought I had to fit this in, although it's not. It's not historical in terms of sorry.
It's the Tale of the Hakey.
Yeah. So
if you were to go online and type in my name and the National in Abu Dhabi, you would see that I reviewed that. When Viking brought it out in a hardcover, I went to my editor and said, if you don't let me review this obscure epic that no one in the West has ever heard of, I'm going to hold my breath until I die.
Which one is Mark? Can you hold that up again?
It's a reread for me, but I read the Helen Craig McCulloch one and I really enjoyed it. And this is the same guy who does
Royal Tyler did the Tale of Genji.
Does the Genji.
Is the Helen Craig McCulloch, is the previous translation, was that for the old Kodansha line?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
On the cover?
Sorry?
The one with the horse on the cover?
No, it had I'm trying to remember, it had like maybe some kind of vase or silk screen. It was black. But annoyingly, I think my parents threw it away or gave it away. And unfortunately I had a mishap with my dad because we did it all by the phone, and I said, those books keep, those books bin, and now I realize probably he binned the ones I said keep and kept the ones I said bin. But I can't complain because they were there and I was here. But Yeah, and it's not. She's quite expensive to buy her book again, but it was really good. So I'm looking forward to that. And I've read Eiji Yoshikawa's fictionalized version as well. But yeah, no. Anyway, going back to that, I'm definitely up for Marco Polo, and there were a few others I have ideas for. I think I'd like to do Bruce Chatwin, Patagonia
Bruce
as well.
Chatwin, yes. Although now that Sean has said it, now I'm wanting to do
Mary Kingsley or Rebecca West.
Is so good. Travels in West Africa is a little smaller than Rebecca West. It might be possible to do.
Well, I would really like to fit Rebecca West in because we will probably do August of Adventure this year, won't we, Sean? And we were talking about maybe doing more non-fiction, and I think that would fit in with that. So,
but it's too long. It's too big.
People read. It's no longer than Shogun or something you've read. Not really, not much.
Yeah, but Shogun has all but killed Micah Cummins.
Yeah, but bless him.
Well, you see, I was going to read the Egypt book by Edward Lane, and in August, it's up here. I can't see it.
You could get some Mungo Park in. Yeah,
but that's a bit shorter than these. I just wanted to get to a couple comments first here.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Craftsman. That's a good one to give a go. It's very short and it's fun. It's just absurd. That's all I'll say. It's just absurd. Alexis saying Vikings are new. Oh, it's new obsession for her. William the Conqueror had Viking blood. I have the collected works of Trollope on my Kindle.
He's well worth it. I mean, start with, I think The Warden is a good place. I mean, that's where I started. And
you can start with The Warden, and you can actually listen to two very fine, attractive young booktubers reading it to you as well. There's a playlist available.
An audio version of The Warden. Very enjoyable. One perfectly read chapter in a very posh English accent, and then the next chapter is read in a quacking New England accent and interrupted 50 times by editorial comments. Then you go back to a chapter read in a beautiful English accent. Then you go back to a chapter read in a New England accent.
I have to say, my favorite was when we did Dracula, and I was ill, and then Micah had a heart attack about having all the Cockney verse in his chapter. He was thinking about doing it. I was like, oh, we must do something again. That was great fun reading those out. Sorry, Sean, go through the comments.
Yeah.
I would love to do a huge read aloud.
No, we were not disparaging the French writers at all, were we? No. Steve was. But
no, I was. Yes, nobody else was. I was. If you are Balzac and you put out a story like the one that is, for instance, on his National Biography page, that the story on his National Biography page is frankly unbelievable. Yeah. It's just frankly unbelievable. Unless you have eyewitness testimony, and he conspicuously has none. You can say, well, let's go to somebody else who's hugely productive. Isaac Asimov. There's an enormous amount of provenance there. Asimov knew that he should save it. He knew that his numbers were unbelievable. So there are eyewitnesses. There are tons of manuscripts and whatnot.
I have no idea who Michael.
I don't have anything against Michael Strogoff. All I'm saying is that some Verne reads very different from other Verne. And I don't mean author trying a new register. I mean different guy. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
James Patterson
guy.
For instance, Ed McBain never sounds that way. You never have that suspicion with Ed McBain. It's clearly the same guy churning these things out.
That reading guy asked, speaking of Frenchies, French writers, what about Proust? I love
you
Proust.
You have to censor yourself, Sean. We're the last island of people where you don't have to censor yourself.
I love Proust. Steve's, I guess it's still the jury is out.
And when you mention Frenchies, I immediately think of Murder by Death, where James Coco's Hercule Poirot says, "I'm not a Frenchie, I'm a Belgie."
I'm not a stupid Frenchie. I'm a stupid Belgian.
Way back in September 2021, Steve is threatening to do a read along of Proust.
It's going to happen. Absolutely.
Because I want to reread it, and
it has to be a year. I think
it
it has to be a year.
We're
Year
doing
of reading.
Remembrance of Things Past in April for Proust Pearl. I thought that was well known.
Proust Pearl.
Well, this April is Van Pearl, and then there's Maypire. So now that might be the Irish. I'm not. The French authors away with it. What?
Get away with it.
Oh, get away with it. Yeah, because nobody wants to deal with the writing. Yeah, that's some truth there. That reading guy, Proust, a dangerous comment. Hopefully, Steve won't go on a rant.
Rant? Me? That would never happen.
Not everything. Proust is overrated or underrated. That is the question. Neither. I really love him. I love it. 55 coffees a day. That must be the
Balzac method of
yes.
It's kind of nice that the four horsemen have been joined by the Grim Reader.
The Grim Reader. I thought about the Grim Reader the other day because the Brattle Bookshop got a huge shipment of old vintage fantasy and science fiction novels, but mostly fantasy. And I went looking for the Grim Reader's mother. I went looking for those Timescape volumes, and they were not there. I swear every other author was, but not Sherry Wilder. Maddening. I wanted them all. I thought this is my last chance to get them. But because big troves like that, they are rare and rare that they crop up.
Mm.
Jenny says it should be M&S, but then you'd be sued.
No.
Gareth, Book Songs and Other Magic, replying to Jenny Parks, great joke about a very British joke that might get lost in
M&S, Marks and Spencer.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
40% through.
It's not quite lost in translation.
The book is too long. Change my mind. Oh, I'm starting Clarissa on April 1st, 50 pages a day. And if I get to, I'll have updates. If I get to page 300 and I get shingles again, then there'll be a momentous video of me burning the book in the backyard, the garden.
Naked.
There you go.
Quite a bit of
pay-per-view
action in the men's room of Marks and Spencer in 1979. Me and Mark Knopfler.
But the Sultans of Swing, was it?
We certainly demonstrated that.
Let's get. I think there's a heck of a lot of comments here. So, Gareth saying, Mark, I like your international approach to this Storathon. My recent video on history books is far too Eurocentric. I feel the S&M book club is being sold on a false bill of good. Steve claims to be well-traveled. Char, I say.
Oh, Aaron, you're killing me here.
That's cruel.
I would like nothing better than to see your Outback. Oh, wait.
Outback, yeah.
Yeah, that's...
what I meant to say is I'd like nothing better than to get my hands on your Ayers Rock. Oh, wait, no. That came out wrong, too.
Uluru.
I would like nothing better. It kills me that I will never see Australia. I will never smooch with a dingo. A whole
George
kind
Simenon,
of world that I will never meet.
I love George Simenon. You like George Simenon too.
I love Simenon, but again, Simenon is not the kind of thing we're talking about because in his own heyday, you could have filled an auditorium with people who watched him write his books. So there's no question.
Can you imagine if he really sold tickets in an auditorium but people just don't watch it, right?
I bet it would have worked. I bet he could have done it.
I thought Harlan Ellison did that.
We got the Grim Reader, and then we got the Mad Woman in the Attic. So that worked.
The Mad Woman in the Attic has a horrible thing to say here. Ads on our live stream.
There shouldn't be any on the live stream on live, is it?
No, it should be on the video that you post on your channel.
Yeah.
Well, as long as it's going to a good cause, right? Any ads that are on the live stream are going to you. Yeah,
I don't know why.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, a German translation of her mother's book, but I can't find any of her mother's books in the original, and I wish that I could. I'll try again next week. I'm going to have another opportunity. I will try again.
What's the author you're looking for?
Kathy Grimm's mother, Cherry Wilder.
Cherry Wilder?
Wilder, yeah. If you call up a Google image search of some of her covers, the Timescape covers, you will recognize.
I recognize the name Timescape, probably the 80s.
Yeah, you'll recognize them. I had them once upon a time.
I remember when I worked at Crown Books getting Timescape and throwing those on the science fiction shelf.
Well, that's the thing. You used to see tons of that, and the yellow Del Rays, like they just were everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
And now?
Yeah, now they're not anymore.
Sorry, yeah. Well, the Dell books too. The old 50s Dells were nice as well. See, there's something that comes out that's correct there occasionally.
Those books were printed, they were reprinted, then slowly the industry started to change. They all went out of print. There's only a limited number of them. So 20 years ago, you saw a lot of them in bookstores. Now you see far fewer. In 20 more years, you'll see none. I could kick myself. I've been to bookstores where there were mountains of those things for like $5 for $1. And I picked here, this one, that one I might like. Maybe I like this one. Well, I should have just said, put them all in a box. I'll take them all.
I remember that. I remember having a few, and then I was going to move, because you buy them at a used bookstore at one time, $1 a piece. You said, well, I'll just rebuy it if I want to reread it. And then all of a sudden, $40 on the internet.
$40 on the internet. Yeah. Now, then all of a sudden you turn around and it's $40 on the internet.
And you're thinking, now, are people buying them at $40 on the internet, or are they just wishful thinking?
Oh, no, they're buying them. And not only are people buying them, but booktubers are buying them. There are channels I subscribe to, or are the guys who buy those things. And their channels are infuriating. Infuriating. They are those guys with the app on the phone ruining every local used book sale. They are those guys, only they've made channels to talk to each other. I thought they talked to each other in insectile clicks and hums, but no, they use English to do it. And they'll say, you know, they always look bored. They've always got the slab face with the half-dead eyes because they don't read these things and they don't care about them. Instead, they'll say, the title of the video will say Vintage Science Fiction Haul, and they'll be holding up one book after another, showing you, yeah, I think this will do well. I think I should be able to get a lot for this. And every fourth or fifth book, they'll think maybe I should toss in an editorial.
And the condition is crap as well.
They'll say, yeah, I guess this is pretty good. James Blish or Blish, I don't really know. I should do pretty good. It's just, they don't know anything about the books. They're the ones buying these things. They buy them at $40 and sell them for
Alan's plugging. Sorry, Steve. Just get a few more.
Faulkner in August. Hey, Frida. Is she on
yoga in August? Yeah. Do you play the didgeridoo, Steve?
Oh, everybody gets to see Frida's yoga. There we go. Her yoga is for some reason very popular. So
But yeah, so okay, we've done. We're caught up now with the comments. Now, what does anybody?
And we've done Friday reads, so now we talk about Trump's indictment.
Possible indictment.
Impossible indictment.
I'm trying to figure out if they're holding back.
Just politics.
You see,
no
I think New York's holding back because he keeps threatening people to bring people to protest. So they're probably going to spike him one day when he's not expecting.
Has he got a huge amount of support in New York though itself?
Not New York.
No. So yeah, it's kind of
go down to the sticks below where I am. Tons of support. Believe it or not, there are still some people when I'm driving who have Trump 24 signs on their yards.
But Sean is probably right. The four horsemen should probably avoid politics.
No politics, please. We're the four horsemen.
So
but you remove politics. What else is there to talk about?
Oh, we could talk about books.
What a great idea!
For instance, as long as I've got the three of you here, I'm curious.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
There was that flap with Roald Dahl, and there was that flap with Ian Fleming. And now there's a third one. Somebody told me about a third one, another author whose works are being gone after. Well, the author is still alive. And I'm curious to know, now that a little time has passed, the initial reaction from people like Mike Vaughn and a few other people was, well, to hell with ebooks then. If the content on my e-reader can be changed remotely without my permission, then to hell with that. I'll just read analog printed books from now on. I'll just let that, I'll put it on the shelf. It was a good experiment and I'll let it go. And I'm wondering if the rest of you feel that way, or well, Shawn is safe anyway.
Here's the thing,
never actually migrated. But Greg, you have an e-reader, don't you?
I have, and you know something? They will not change that extent on your ebook, because when you do that, you're probably gonna get a new ISBN number. And they're gonna put the old ebook out of print and do a new ebook. They're not gonna go to your old ebook and change it up. I've seen that a number of times, not on these particular, like I once bought a ebook of Day of the Triffids, you know, and eventually they put out a new release, and the old one, if you go to my like your Amazon page of your Kindle books and you try to click on the details, they go, oops, that book is not available. But you can still download it. It's still available for download, but you can't go to the store and see the book anymore. You can only see the new version of the book. And that's what I think would happen is with the Roald Dahl, if you bought the old version and then they released a new version, your old version would become unavailable for purchase. But you can still download your old version, and they're not going to revise your current version.
The whole point is they can do all this. They don't have to change the ISBN number. They should, but when it's electronic and the rights management that you sign for, that you agree to, you open yourself up to all these possibilities.
Well,
and
they are doing that his blot copy of Dune was suddenly swapped out for a movie cover. That's horrifying. If that, and that is
possible. Yeah, I've had the movie cover thing. That's annoying.
And also, you can prevent that.
Oh, really?
There is a setting in your Kindles where you say allow updates.
Okay.
And you can turn that off, and that will prevent that. But on ebooks, you will occasionally get typos, and they do occasionally, when it's bad, go out and fix those typos and push those corrections out to you.
Well, I mean, also sometimes it's to do with like the contents and things like that. They haven't done it right, because I'm very annoyed. I got St. Augustine's Confessions. I got both City of God and Confessions, but I can't remember which one's the one with the problem, as from Penguin as an ebook, and it's got no contents. And the bizarre thing is, the book is showing as only having 2 pages. Everything is there, but it says like page 1 of 2. You read it, and there's no contents in it. So there's no navigation, and this is Penguin.
A friend of mine wrote an article about this very subject, and the title and the lead of the article was "E-reading is finished." And I wondered since I've got 3 veteran readers here, what you think, whether or not you think that's true.
Why does he think it's finished? Because they can change things up too much?
Because the ability to change things remotely, reaching into your device, means the whole process is suspect in a way that your print books are not. Your print books are your property. They don't change unless you change them. No one can come into your house and say, these books are no longer quite the thing. So, and also, I don't like these covers. I'm going to tear these off and put new ones on. No one can do that to your print books. It was probably hyperbole, but have you read? Yes, Monet Doyle asked a have you read question, and I diplomatically ignored it because it's the younger brother of the heir to the King of England writing a memoir in which he tortures his family. Asking me a have you read question about such a book is a little bit beyond the pale.
I reckon you probably read the leaked early Spanish release, no?
I have read Spare.
I've got a adjunct.
See, I would not read Spare if you put a gun to my head. It just like I have absolutely no interest in that man or in his family whatsoever.
I am very much interested in the House of Windsor, but I would have had to read it anyway because it's history. No other royal has ever written such a book.
Well,
and
neither did he.
I guess instead of have I read it, if you want to know what I think, it's entirely fiction, and it's lucky that it's not actionable.
So going back to the ebook, do you really think e-reading is done?
I think my friend's lead was probably a little hyperbolic, but I have to confess, I wasn't the only person who felt that way when that whole flap happened with Roald Dahl. Because keep in mind, the arrangement that you're describing, where the originals are available, but the so-called improved, where they change what a character reads to suit better the political whims of the editors doing the changing. Keep in mind that originally there wasn't going to be a 2-tier. It was public outcry that saved the originals in print. Otherwise, it would just have been the improved version, and that would have been all. And I don't know for sure that Dahl's publisher wouldn't have swapped those out electronically so that you look deep in the bowels of your Kindle library and suddenly it's that version looking out at you. I'm not sure that wouldn't have happened. It's certainly technologically possible, unless you have your Kindle.
Technologically possible, but I have to say that when I am reading a book now, I can read this, right? I get my reading glasses on to read this now. Or I can read on this. What is easier reading?
Oh, I don't disagree at all. E-reading is better. It's just plain better. Right.
For me.
I'm sorry.
What is that device?
What?
Is that the new Kindle Paperwhite?
This is the Kindle Scribe.
Oh,
this is my. I'm tired of the small screen, and it's
the Kindle Scribe. You're using it just for reading, and it's
I do take a couple notes.
You do, okay.
But now the only problem is, in real life, my handwriting is atrocious.
I thought the Kindle Scribe could correct it.
Well, here's the thing: when you put it on the Kindle Scribe, it accurately reproduces your handwriting. So it looks like your handwriting.
Well, that's not going to work for you, then, is it?
But there is a little gimmick that I have noticed. There is a style they call fountain pen to make you look like you're writing with a fountain pen. And I have noticed that when I use the fountain pen style, it marginally improves my handwriting because it's trying to interpret my letters as a fountain pen, so it's going to clean it up a little bit.
I would think if your penmanship was bad enough, the Kindle Scribe would just respond like in 2001. It would just say, "I'm sorry, I can't do that, Al."
And it doesn't, like when you write with your handwriting, it doesn't give you the option to change it to typed.
The text.
No.
So that's what I thought, but no, it doesn't do that. Okay.
No,
I have
you have the option to use the keyboard to key it in like normal. But it does not have handwriting recognition where it will look to see what you think you've written.
What most tempted me about the Scribe is that unlike the Kindles, it's a full page size. It's like you're reading the full page of a book.
You can get a full page, and that's what I really love about this.
That is very tempting. I don't actually have, what is that, 10 inches? I don't have
10 inches, yeah.
I don't have a full size e-ink device.
I only have the little pricey one. And you're paying for it. You're paying for this the note-taking capabilities, which it's expensive. And
right.
Honestly, I'm not going to use the note. I mean, I don't scribble in my books anyway. Some people like to write in their books and take notes. And one of the criticisms is that you're not actually taking notes in the book like you were on a paper, like you would circle a word or underline. You can underline, but you can't do the pictures and write on the sides. It's like a Post-it note you stick it in there. Some people don't like that ability. They want you actually mark up the book as if you're marking up a real page. But you're not doing that.
I want to wait for, as far as I know, Amazon does not make a 10-inch e-reader with no writing capability. Just a full-size 10-inch e-reader. And I know that they will, or somebody will. I'm just waiting for that. I would never use the writing, so there'd be no, and that's a huge chunk of the price tag.
It is.
Oh my! Do you see this comment from Aaron Hook? Good Lord!
I was gonna say, because when that came up, I've not read the James Bond book, so I just curious to see if you could pick up really cheap copies. No, you can't. They're really expensive.
And it's like I said, it's going to continue with other authors. Somebody, in fact, in the original discussion mentioned P.G. Wodehouse. P.G. Wodehouse is extremely vulnerable to this sort of thing, extremely so. Only for terminology's sake, for a liberal use of what the censorship of the 21st century enforces us all to idiotically refer to as the N-word. Like the Spanish Inquisition is right here if I actually say the word.
YouTube would swat Strawn's channel down.
Unbelievable.
I saw that. I was looking at this thing
word is something we cannot say. It's just unbelievable when it's just a word.
Translating book titles, and Joseph Conrad's book, The N-Word of the Narcissus, has a different title in America. Yeah. But there was a great story. I don't know if anyone watched the video. I think you might have done, Greg. But there was, I think it's like an apocryphal story about John Steinbeck's widow was in Japan, and she went into one of the bookshops and she said, have you got a book by my favorite author? And of course the guy's like, oh, who's your favorite author? He's like, oh, John Steinbeck. And he said, oh yes, we have Angry Raisins. Because they translated, of course, Grapes of Wrath. And he's like, yeah, we've got Angry Raisins. I don't know. Probably not true, but I loved it. So
it drives me absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Well, I think is this the true future, or is this just a phase that they're going through?
Give them an inch, they take a mile.
The thing
no one ever surrenders this kind of power, not voluntarily. All I can think about when on this live stream, Greg is right. If we say that one word, the whole thing will be struck down because someone is watching, because the Spanish Inquisition is right next door and watching. All I can think about is Alabama body cam footage of a cop who beat the crap out of a young black man who gave him lip. He walked by a young black man and said, isn't it time that you were home? And the guy said, I'm minding my own business, sir. That was his exact quote. He even added the sir. The cop kicked the crap out of him and at arraignment refused to use what he referred to as the N-word. So what are the priorities here? So you're worried you'll get in trouble if you use one word, but you violated this. Anyway.
It's very interesting when you live in a country that doesn't have this kind of history because they don't understand, like American culture is American culture. American culture is obviously very revered in, parts of the world. And
why?
Kids here, they don't know that the N-word's a bad thing because they don't watch the news, but they hear it in rap music and,
they hear it 24 hours a day in rap music.
And all this stuff. And they will use it. And all these, and they're own pretty much 99% of the school is white, and they don't mean anything by it, but they've heard it all the time. No. And they'll sometimes use it if they see a black person, because even seeing a black person is quite unusual in like a small town. And the only ones you'll see are pretty much on the TV, not like walking down the street. And they'll use it. And of course, I'm sitting there going, you can't use that word. And I have to explain to them because the problem is if nobody tells them, they might use it. They're going on a school trip to London, and I know they can be loud and they might say, oh, look, there's a lot of, they want to say black people, but they'll use it because they just don't know. I mean, people assume that everybody else must know this is a bad word, but they don't know unless someone tells them. Why would they? Because as you say, all they're hearing is the N-word in rap music and, people using it amongst themselves. They don't know that they're not allowed to use it. So,
well, when I was in university, this was 80s, we were reading Huckleberry Finn in class. And our teacher was a black man. And he says, this is the word they use. Yeah. It was not offensive back then. And that's it. That's the way it was used. And he went and read he used it a couple of times in reading the text. And he did not seem, now, he could have had this Mother Courage inner scream using it, but I think he knew the literature and said it was not, Mark Twain was not being offensive when he wrote it.
I think I used it.
I refer
used
to
it,
the
maybe.
Sean's Barnes editorial comment. Rather than make the editorial changes, I opted to omit the content completely. That is the mind frame of the 21st century. And that's what's going to happen. Mark Twain, Joseph Conrad, they'll all be gone.
I think I accidentally used it myself on my channel when I was reading, Mary Seacole. So in her memoir, she used it. And I thought it was acceptable because I was reading it and she's black, or at least half black. In that case, I thought probably, and I think I might have gotten away with it. I don't know. But of course, I didn't use it to cause offense or anything like that because it was just in the text that I was reading. But if it was Huckleberry Finn, because obviously Mark Twain is white, I'm white, or whatever, I think, therefore, maybe it's more problematic, isn't it?
Let's move on a bit.
Yeah.
Sean breaking out the sweat, seeing all the monetization.
We're doing all of this on his channel.
Yeah, well, do it on mine next time then.
I will probably read Joseph Conrad, and that's the copy that I will be reading, and that's the title that I will be saying.
Be fun
because that's a copy.
I think that's what you get on Project Gutenberg.
Geo Craftsman says unexpected revisions changes of death for a reader. Like, I agree with the abridged. Like, you don't read abridgment; it's not worthwhile. Spare, or it's I'm lost the thread of that. I'd like to read or listen to audio of. Yeah, I don't know. And MJ is agreeing with the scribe.
Is that what the group is called? The Scribe
Tribe. Steve's eyes lighting up. Yeah, for the scribe.
Any tech will do that.
And Mark's back. Greg, I bet that will be an update in the future for side-by-side page viewing. Weston Hearts, Greg, how is the battery life on the Scribe? My Kindle Oasis is a dream e-reader to me, but the battery life is disappointing.
What about the Scribe? That's true of my Oasis. It's a dream.
The Oasis is terrible. It was just absolutely terrible for battery life. I'm actually, one of the things I'm doing on my Scribe is I've created a notebook on my battery life, when I recharge, how much I recharged it. I've just started it, so it's not fully, but on 3/18 at 11:09 p.m., I was down to 10%. On the 19th, it was up to 100. So what was 23rd? That was what? How many days? 3 days? 4 days ago? Something like that. And now I am at a battery life of 82%. But I've had my Wi-Fi on. And I read a lot every day, usually. So you're still looking like 2 weeks battery life, reading every day, hour or two.
That's pretty good.
Gents,
I'm gonna have to leave, gents. Unfortunately, just a special one-off this week because I was actually at a birthday party before we joined the live, and I do have to kind of go back, I guess. So, yeah, unprofessional. Apologies, everyone, but I'm gonna leave, and you might still be here when I get back. Who knows?
You still got half an hour with me. I don't have to leave for 30 minutes. So,
all right, everyone. Thanks for watching.
Right.
Bye-bye from me.
Bye,
Cheers. Bye.
Sorry, Aaron. He's not able to answer the question. I don't know the story.
I thought he'd never leave.
Let's see here. MJ. She's talking about the battery.
Yeah, annotation, I think, does take up a lot of battery.
Alert, oxymoron usage, American culture.
I was tempted by the Scribe, but I get burned when I do first gen tech. I get burned. I want to wait. Once it's had 10 updates and the bugs have been worked out, and maybe there's a cheaper version that only reads at that size, then absolutely. But
yeah.
Not. Okay.
I resisted for as long as I could, but it's just tech is just something I can't resist.
Me neither.
Enough e-reader talk, enough Trump talk. Let's get back to books or other things.
Okay.
I just bought a piece of tech Just the other day, I had a MacBook that was acting up, so I went on to eBay and found. I said I want to spend $150, no more than that. Got a 11-inch MacBook that works just fine. Does everything.
I sent you a MacBook.
Yes, you sent me a very, very early MacBook, and it is a testament to how amazing these things are. That the one you sent works perfectly. It's just that there are some things that it's hardware can't do. It's so old that there are some things it'll still type text and it'll still email that text, which is really great because I have it set up on a desk where I can do that. Big heavy thing, not really meant for the lap.
No.
But there are other things that it simply cannot do. There is no version of X, Y, or Z program that is old enough to fit it, which is the one problem that you have with MacBooks or tech of any kind, is that sooner or later, it's just going to age out. There's a shop right up the street from me that has very old computers in the windows, these little square boxy things that I remember. You couldn't get one of them to work now. You couldn't get one of them even to access the internet. And I don't know how you do it anyway. None of them are capable of receiving Wi-Fi. So you'd have to monkey with it quite a bit. And
You have to plug them into the back. You have those little
Cat 5. Some sort of Ethernet connection. The MacBook that you sent has 1 million ports. It's unbelievable. The amount of things you can do with it is unbelievable. You really did. I mean, when that thing originally came out, it was $1,000, and you got your money's worth. You really did. You got a command and control center in a portable format. It's just a shame to me. That's all. Omnipotent Poobah is asking what I have to my left. I have a persnickety editor to my left that I am. I'm trying to ignore a persnickety editor. It's not gonna work.
Coming up because I don't see that.
Well, they're all mine. I'm all theirs at 4, but I can stay here until then. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. If you're a freelance writer.
Yeah, the only thing with tech I want to say is I need a monitor because I got a computer, but I don't have a monitor, and I've had the computer for 8 months now, and I don't have a monitor.
You don't have a laptop?
I have 2, and they don't work. And I can't afford it, but I've got a nice little desktop computer. It's a small one. I've tried to use my TV as a monitor, but it's too jagged. It just drives my eyes nuts, and I get
the resolution is different.
Yeah.
Do your laptops turn on?
No, they won't even turn on now. I gave them to someone who reformatted them. They turned on once. I turned them off, and it's just not working. So
sell them.
And they've told that there's something faulty with the hardware.
Are they MacBooks?
Definitely. No, I would never have a MacBook.
Well, it doesn't matter. You could still sell them on eBay for parts. Probably make $80 a piece from them.
I might. Well, not. So that's about 30 pounds. No, I don't. Yeah, I might have to do that.
At least in the Goodwills down here, you occasionally see stacks and stacks of monitors out in the donation center. And I don't think they sell them. I think they recycle them. You could go pick one out, just say, give me this monitor for $5.
Yeah, I need something.
I don't know if they do the same in the UK as in over here, but I said, I've been to recycling centers. We just see stacks of old monitors.
Shouldn't sit on old tech. Amazon, you send it to them and they will price it for you. They'll market it for you.
Take a look at it. But yeah, it's about in my the flat screen. It just doesn't work. It's fine for watching films, but I just can't. It just screws up my eye. I thought, well, I'm okay. I don't need a monitor, but no, I do need a monitor. So that's the next thing on my list someday. But because my tablets and telephone is Stone Age. It's not that they're that old. It's just that they're not very good.
So the next piece
Anyway,
of tech that I want a large phone, iPhone 10 or bigger. I want a large, yeah, something like that. I want a large phone. I have the iPhone 6S, and it is not big enough, not at all. If a larger phone, I think would be a lot of fun, but I don't need it in any way, so it's definitely going to wait.
Well, I pay a total of £7 a month for service and the phone. That's all I can afford.
It's a newer phone, though. You've got multiple cameras on the back.
Yeah, it's I got it last year because my contract was up, so I got another one just over a year ago, I think it was, and it's just I just chose the cheapest plan, which was £7 a month, and it works. It's slow, very slow. It's very difficult to go on desktop sites on it, and there's many things you can't do. It's very slow. But
so to get to books, what are we reading at the moment? Right now, right this minute.
I've just lost something down the side here.
I'm gonna finish. I mentioned this is my evening reading for tonight. And this will be my 99th book for my 100 book challenge.
Oh my.
Well, I'm reading.
I've made sure that this is going to be my 100th book, just for symbolic reasons. I kind of want this to be the 100th book.
Yeah, I'm going to finish off tonight, The Kill.
Oh wow.
And then I've got Hornblower and the Hotspur to read probably tomorrow morning, hopefully. But this reading hasn't been that great this week, but I've got I got some new stuff that I want to read that I've been given. So I've got to reread Maltese Falcon because I'm doing that with Carrie on the 2nd, Literary Carrie, doing a live regarding that. And that reminds me, I'll plug it here now. I'm doing a birthday bash thing on my birthday a week tomorrow.
Oh, I have a quick question about the Hornblower. There's a big debate on how to read Hornblower. Chronological sequence or publication sequence? I noticed you're doing the chronological.
Yeah.
But a lot of people say you really should do the publication sequence.
That'd be me.
I don't know.
I'd say that. The publication.
You say publication?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a story out of order, but you get to see sort of the evolution of what, and then the thoughts back
right
from it. But I've not read all of them, so I'm doing the chronological order. It's the same as everything that I'm reading. I'm doing these in the chronological order as well.
Right. The chronological order gives you the suspense of following the interest of following this person through every rank, through all the progressions of rank. The publication order means that by the time you're reading about Mr. Midshipman Hornblower, you already care about him. You've been made to care about him when he was older in earlier books. I always advocate the second way, but it makes no difference because Forster's prose really doesn't grow. So you're not going to be noticing drastic jumps in quality at all.
But they said there are some issues that he worked out later books that you kind of notice he's changing.
Issues of continuity, but no, I mean his prose style doesn't change at all. So you're not going to be jarred by that. I'm going to be reading something from the pulps, something from the pulps that I found just today. Let me see if I can grab it here. This thing. Somebody put together all of the different segments of a serialized novel from Argosy All Story magazine. This is the kind of thing you find for $1 at the Brattle, that I couldn't resist it. So I'm going to be trying that tonight. The main thing I'm going to be working on is Peter Heather's big book on Christendom, which comes out next month. I'm trying to get every reviewer in the Western world to write about it at great length.
No, is this like the Dermot book on Christianity?
Yeah. Well, it's half the length, but it's the same subject.
Okay.
The rise and triumph of Christianity, and it won't be as exhaustive as the McCullough, the Darren McCullough book. It won't be as exhaustive as that, but it's really good. It deserves a wide reception among reviewers, which I am doing my best to make sure happens. I want it reviewed everywhere. Everywhere that is anywhere, I want.
And yeah, is there anything that sort of was interesting this week that happened to you? I had something interesting, as everybody knows, earlier in the week.
Yes, and not only was yours something interesting, but it could happen to any of us.
How did they hack into it? I mean, I'm just sort of curious.
For viewers, care to synopsize for our listeners what happened?
Well, what happened was that I got an email, and actually the Grim Reader sent me a Twitter instant messaging too, saying that my channel wasn't up anymore. And I'm going, I don't know what's wrong with that. I was having a nap. I looked, and yeah, I couldn't get on. It's just saying that I don't have a channel. I don't have an account. And I asked Mark to look, and he couldn't find it as well. And it just sort of, and then I was looking at all these emails that I was getting from a video that I did, all these hate emails, and saying, oh, you're going to pay for this. You know, I don't think you're going to have, I deleted most of the stuff. So it was somebody threatening to erase me. And that's what happened, I guess. But thankfully, YouTube has something that you just sort of go through, and the process of creating a new channel with your email address and everything, and it just ports across everything. It didn't delete it all, but it did delete all my comments. It deleted every comment that I made on anybody ever.
But
all those
YouTube had a backup of your videos?
It must be, yeah, because it eventually, like, they all came back. I think they all come back. But yeah, but also, not just my comments, but comments on earlier videos have disappeared, because it'll say 10 comments and there's no comments. So it didn't keep everything. It kept, as far as I know, all the videos are there.
So how long was it between when you learned that your channel was gone and when it was back?
Couple hours, but I don't know. So probably, okay, that was when I knew, a couple hours. But I was having a nap so there could have been a 4-hour period that when it was down. And
you were not contacted in any way by anyone claiming responsibility?
No, well, emails just saying that, like, that were previous to this.
But nothing after? No,
nothing after. Nothing after at all.
Now, because at least on my account, is like, if I log in with a new device, it makes me approve that device before you can do anything.
See, I now have that because I was told about it, and I now have that. But you see, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Because when I
was setting this thing up, it sent a code to my phone.
Yeah, because when I set up YouTube, I've had that YouTube channel for over a decade. And I don't think it's ever changed. There was nothing I didn't do anything like that then. So everything stayed the same.
Okay. So you might be, because I'm saying, like, they would have had to hack your password to do that.
Yeah, they must have. Yeah. They must have. That's the only thing that I can think of, because when I do look on Google, it says that there is a thing saying that there were attempts to get in. So somebody was trying to get in.
Kind of odd that nobody would take credit. I guess maybe they're worried that if they take credit, they'll be findable.
I don't know. I've been getting this kind of thing in like these emails at various times from it depends on the video that I put up, or comments on it as well. So.
Yeah. I worry about, because you get a lot of issues like, there's a problem with your account, please log in. And those are always spammers.
Yeah, they're always false. They're always false. It's so weird. I mean, that the incident with Shawn reminded me that that's the world we're all in right now. In order to have these conversations, in order to do these videos, in order to get to know each other, in order to make these friends in this chat, we have to be in this world, which is so, Shawn's incident reminds us that there are creepy monsters in this world as well.
There are. I mean,
well, because I kind of wonder if it's the person that emailed Mark that said I was, money grubbing and prostituting myself. And I kind of wonder if it was that person.
If anybody actually ever does email you hinting that they are responsible, I'd appreciate a photo shot of that email. That would be great. If you feel like sending it to me, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So far I haven't. Like I was thinking that from yesterday's video that I would get some hate email, but I haven't got that yet. So which is nice.
It probably won't happen. Someone who decides that they don't like you and decides that they're going to try to attack your channel is a coward anyway, so they're not going to take credit for it.
Google may assist you on tracking these people down, because they're not going to take very kindly to people attacking their customers. So they probably have some sort of security division which will help you track these people down.
I'll send them an email and see. Or
I mean, it may be too late. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's just so unsettling. It's so unsettling to know.
Well, you have houses get burglarized all over the place. I mean,
true. It's just,
and he said you do have to take a lot of precautions, like all this. At very first I was really annoyed by these double authentication things, but now I'm thinking, well, yeah, really, everyone should be on double authentication.
At the very least.
And make sure that your password does not contain pet names, does not contain marriage dates, birth dates, or anything associated with you.
Yeah. That it's not the same from month to month. But nobody ever does that. All of your passwords, you should use an encrypted password protector of some kind or other. And it should be end-to-end encryption. It shouldn't just be that you can't see it. It should be that no one can see it, that it's bottled from beginning to end. There's all sorts of ways out there to make this much easier, and none of us ever do it. We just assume, a herd mentality. If there are this many of us, we're probably safe. But a password manager is the way to go, because really, and find one that's really rated, find a tech channel that rates one really highly and just use that.
I love the way the banks work here in the UK. When I set up my bank account, I've changed everything since then. It was like they want to know what my mother's maiden name is. They want to know what your favorite movie is. They want to know what your favorite actor is or your favorite book. And I'm going, how is that going to be protected? Because anybody can figure that out that knows me or gets that information. That's all, public domain or potentially public domain information.
And there are people who fish for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Like, you could have a commenter going, "Oh, Shawn, what is your favorite fried food?" or something, whatever.
Yeah.
And then mark it down, and then they have a list of, well, here's what you can use against Shawn.
Oh, there we go. Yes. Weston says password managers are excellent. Yeah, find a really good one. And
there are a number of highly rated ones.
Sometimes batches of usernames, etc., get leaked. It's Netflix are particularly bad at this front. Yeah,
I have an email account that got hacked once by what's the business one? LinkedIn. And it was a really funny email, and it had like my unencrypted password as the subject. And they go, "We have a video of you doing blank with yourself, and we're going to release it unless you give us X number of Bitcoins." And I'm going, No, you don't have that video. I'm ignoring you. But the thing is, don't ever try to fool these people or get involved with them, because you've heard about some people playing along with them, and that's probably a very dangerous game.
A famous TED talk
Comedian.
on a guy that played along with a spammer for an enormous length of time. It is dangerous. I wouldn't advise it. And he made him wealthy. He took his TED talk on the road about that.
But a lot of these people are professional criminals.
Yeah, no.
And if they have your information, they may have more information than you know, and you don't want to piss off a professional criminal.
Yeah, I just don't know where.
Just ignore them. That's really all you can do is ignore them.
We put ourselves in their way, right? This is all voluntary. We're making content online. We don't need to be doing that. And that making content online increases the likelihood of any of this stuff a millionfold.
Well, yeah. Well, and the other thing is too, like, well, you've said, Steve, because like I'm pretty open, like, you know, like I was pretty clear, like I disappeared from my channel quite a while once I had the health issues in beginning of 2021, and I explained what the problem was, thinking that it was going to be over, but it's been ongoing, and people do ask me questions, and you know, and it's like, do I ignore those? Like, I know some people ignore, but I'm not that type of person, so I will answer those, and that does open you up. You know, that opens you up, I think.
Well, you're transparent anyway. That's what these cowards that do this sort of thing think they're invisible. They're not. No one is invisible. Everyone is findable. I'm not talking just about being a patient listener to someone's channel. No thief is going to do that. I'm talking about, you know, studying your metadata, studying your ISP. It's easy to learn a lot from that. And no matter how many times you bounce it, it can be rebounced. It can be traced along those bounces back to where you originally started. I mean, it on BookTube, we're laying ourselves open. That's what I'm saying. We're putting ourselves in the path of these people. If they were patient, I just don't know what the gain would be. I mean, Sean, your channel, watching your channel for years, I can guess almost to the exact street number where you live. Your descriptions alone of your health problem gave me a very clear idea of not only where you live, but where your healthcare facility was. But why would I want that information?
Yeah, well, that's I know.
We all do that. We all overshare on our channel.
Yeah. And I think one time I did accidentally at some point show my address on a label. And
who hasn't? We've all done that.
Yeah, and then I actually started getting stuff. I go, how did people know this?
Yeah. Well, Sean, you know what they say here, the reading guy, why would they care about small BookTube channels? They don't care about book. They care about the person who may have money in the bank.
Yeah.
And that they can convince you somehow to send that money to them.
Yeah, and Alexis says I'm way too poor for someone to come after me, but that's what I mentioned the herd mentality for. You don't have to be their retirement savings. You just have to be a meal for one day. Same thing as a gazelle on the open plain.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be a meal for one day. So it doesn't really matter whether you're poor or not.
As long as you get every day, get one.
Yeah.
And the Spaminator says don't click on weird links, which is kind of ironic coming from him. Aren't you a living weird link? But unfortunately, I have to go. This is gonna we're slowly whittling down here to just two people.
Right.
Well, nobody. I should have started out. This should have been a super chat. Damn, I missed that. This should have been a super chat.
Can you do a super chat on your channel? You absolutely should.
Yeah. It's actually everything's there. If anyone wants to do it, they can do it. But I didn't say that at the beginning.
Well, excuse me. I have to go.
Okay.
But I think we should all meet next Friday. And if we can arrange, if we can arrange for him not to be there, so much better.
If you guys want to continue doing it every Friday, I mean, it's your show, and sure, I love doing these things.
Tech talk though.
But you see, I want Steve's eyes to light up again, just showing him.
I wouldn't use the writing. And that's a huge portion of the pull of the device, and I wouldn't use it. So
I thought I might use it more, but I'm just not a native annotator.
I am, but I would never do it on. I would never. I just type with my finger on the Kindle. I would never use a pen to do it. I don't want an accessory. Nope. I'm going to wait. I want a larger e-ink screen, but I'm going to wait and see. But anyway, I have to go. It's 4. It's 4 Eastern Standard Time, so I have to go. But thank you very much, both of you, and also Mark. This was lots and lots of fun. And I will be back the next time I'm invited.
See you later, Steve.
See you both.
Bye.
Bye, Greg. Or are you going to stick around there?
Do we still have a lot of people in the chat?
Yeah, we got 30. We've dropped, but yeah, we got 30. We got 30.
Maybe we should be taking questions from the chat people.
Yeah. So yeah, we could do that now. Since all the dead wood's gone. So yeah, if there's any questions now, because that's what we usually do, but it's just with 4 people, there's a lot going on here. I'm glad there isn't the speed of the comments like Steve gets with over 100. We had over 50 at the beginning for a while, but
I get overwhelmed with 15 people in my chat. It's just like they get way over, chatting, and sometimes I skip comments. Someone made a comment. You didn't read out my comment. I'm going like, sorry.
Well, today I didn't put up people's when they're chatting between each other.
I don't do that either, and I think I missed something on someone, and they got a little offended. But we're all human and make those kind of mistakes.
But yeah, no, it's the lives are fun. But yeah, if anybody's got any questions for Greg or for me,
yeah.
Jenny, you could always try some of your new tech, Sean. And oh yeah, well that's the thing, Jenny. Yeah, well I guess I'll show that. I've got thankfully to Jenny and others. Where is it now? I'm looking for everything. I've got a blood pressure monitor, a blood sugar monitor, and I dropped my oxygen monitor. And I was thinking my first vlog is going to be me trying to figure out how to use my blood pressure monitor. Like, will my arm blow up? Will it blow up? The suspense will kill everybody. That might be worth a video. And I do that.
The home blood pressure is pretty easy.
Yeah, but with COVID brain. Thank you for stopping by, Mad Woman.
Goodbye, Mad Woman.
But yeah, I will be doing that. I don't know where I've misplaced now my the blood sugar monitor. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to do it now, but I will do a video for that, because I'm going to start doing a vlog of things, because I get people asking me more of what's happening, because there's a lot of people that have long COVID, and I guess they want to see my suffering.
Well, I mentioned to my wife that I had a friend on the internet who has long COVID. Just, what are the symptoms and downsides? Because she was interested, because as far as I know, neither of us have had COVID yet, which is statistically unusual. That most people have had it by now.
Yeah, it's I just haven't recovered in over 2 years. That's the problem. Part of it is saying the readings. Yeah, I'll see how this one works because I had the district nurses over today to do the dressings on my leg, and they took today's reading. So I'm supposed to take it every day because I might have had a little possible mini stroke or a TIA. I forget what the TIA stands for. About 4 weeks ago, something weird happened. So, and I'm supposed to take readings every day. Thanks, Grim Reader.
Bye, Grim Reader.
I have an Omron blood pressure thingy, and if you read the following, if you read and follow the instructions, it's pretty straightforward. Well, I hope so, but it could make an interesting video if I screw up.
Nothing. I mean, I have a home blood pressure one somewhere in my house because, you know, when my mother-in-law was living with us, she had diabetes and some other health concerns. And so we had a lot of these type of monitors, and we just learned how to use it at home. It's not hard. Anyone can do it, really.
Yeah, no, it should be pretty easy because I'm surprised at how small they are. But yeah, Weston Hart's words. Yeah, it's transient ischemic attack. It was really weird. I woke up from dozing. Mark left me a message on Voxer, and I played it. I recognized his voice. I can picture what he looks like, but I couldn't. And I looked at the name Mark, and it made no sense. He sent me some pictures of books. I didn't know what those books were. I looked at other people in the in Voxer, and I could picture them. Well, when I went in, I could picture them, but I couldn't associate a name to it. It was all disconnected, and it was pretty weird.
How long did that last?
About 45 minutes, and then it cleared up. But like I was told that I should have called an ambulance immediately. But the thing is, I get that where I can't think of a name. Like I'll look at you, Greg, at times, and I can't think of your name because that's COVID. That's the way the cognitive thing is, or I can't think of a word. And I thought it's very similar to that, but in a bigger way. But then the nurse came the next day and took my blood pressure, and it was quite high. So it's possible, but it's normal not normal, but it is people who have COVID, and if they get long COVID within a year, there's a certain percentage of people that have a stroke. I'm past the year, so I thought I'd be fine, but you never know. So, but yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing. I spent 4 weeks trying to contact organizations to try to get things like the blood sugar level, blood pressure level, our blood pressure monitor, and I don't fit their criteria.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I thought you got that with your healthcare over in the UK.
Yeah, no. The doctors will not prescribe it. They've got something through the surgery, the doctor's office, that I may or may not be okay for, but they said that they've got a list that goes up well into 2025. What use is that? So yeah, so I prostituted myself, according to that guy that emailed Mark and asked for help.
That's just crazy. I mean,
so yeah, but that's long COVID. Well, does anybody have any questions about that? I guess, or to Greg? Yeah, that's what it seems like. And then they'll probably say, well, we have to check. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, or I guess we could wrap up. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about, Greg?
No, you know, we've been at this a little over 2 hours, and that's pretty good.
We're just about to wrap it up.
We're wrapping up.
Yeah. So, and we got now down to 19. So I guess we'll say good night, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are.
Okay.
And we'll see you next time, hopefully next week on Mark's channel.
All right. Goodbye.